with some hail and thunder. And with that more cloud in the west, we could see more hazy spells of sunshine. But otherwise, a mostly dry, settled day, fairly similar temperatures, highs reaching around 22 degrees Celsius in the southeast. Wednesday, though, perhaps a dry start in eastern areas, soon being replaced by further cloud and showers before we see persistent bands of rain push in from the west, turning quite blustery at times too, alongside some heavy bursts of rain. So quite an unsettled day on Wednesday, and the showers are still continuing for Thursday and Friday, but hopefully plenty of bright and sunny spells in between, where it should remain fairly pleasant.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
This is your chance to win a motorhome and cash in our biggest giveaway to date. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be the proud owner of this 2025 Benamar Primero. It comfortably accommodates 4 people and can be driven on your standard driving licence. Plus, you'll also bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. Make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dawdney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good evening. It's me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, on State of the Nation tonight. The capital grinds to a halt as RMT members demand more money and less work, but the driverless DLR trains keep on moving. The Mayor of London has the means to stop this, but refuses to use them. This is Sadiq Khan's strike. Also tonight.
I think we need all the political talents on the right of centre, putting their shoulder to what needs to be done for the country.
Is it time to unite the right? Following the Reform Party conference this weekend, new recruit Nadine Dorries says Boris Johnson and Nigel Farage should team up. But policy chief Zia Youssef says he'll never be welcome in reform. Is it time the right teamed up to beat the socialists? And the political turmoil that has affected France since that sad day in 1789 has hit again this evening after her parliament voted to topple the government over rising debt. Prime Minister Bayrou must resign, leaving President Macron searching for a fifth Prime Minister in under 2 years, getting quite like us. With opposition rejecting budget cuts, does the French government's collapse mean anything for the United Kingdom? Plus, in a whole new meaning to Labour's magic money tree, a magician reveals he was fined £429 for using a rabbit as part of his act. Why do we keep conjuring these crazy rules out of our hats? State of the Nation starts now. Also be joined by my most intellectual panel, the former Conservative MP and Minister Sir John Redwood and the former Labour MP Stephen Pound. As always, I want your views, mailmog@gbnews.com. But now it's your favourite time of the day, the News Bulletin with Katie Bowen.
Jacob, thank you and good evening. The headlines at 2 minutes past 8. And some breaking news tonight. Emergency services are currently responding to a possible hazardous materials incident at Heathrow Airport. Heathrow have confirmed in a statement that Terminal 4 check-in has been closed and evacuated while emergency services respond to that incident. Passengers are being asked not to travel to Terminal 4, and National Rail have also confirmed that trains are not stopping at the terminal. All other terminals are operating as normal and flights still appear to be taking off from the airport. London Fire Brigade said specialist crews have been deployed to carry out an assessment of the scene, and part of the airport has been evacuated as a precaution whilst firefighters respond. Crews were first called to the airport at 5 o'clock this evening. We'll bring you more on that breaking story as we get it. To France, where tonight Prime Minister Francois Bayrou has been ousted from Parliament after losing a confidence vote. MPs debated and voted on that motion this afternoon, with Bayrou losing that vote 364 to 194. The country has been plunged into fresh political chaos as Bayrou is expected to tender his resignation tomorrow morning. President Emmanuel Macron faces a choice between calling a snap election or picking a fifth Prime Minister in less than 2 years. Bayrou has only been in office since December. Back at home, Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood says the UK could suspend visas from countries that do not play ball and agree to returns deals for migrants. Ms Mahmood has hosted a security alliance today alongside ministers from countries like America and Canada to discuss the rise of people smuggling gangs. It comes after more than 1,000 migrants crossed the Channel on the Home Secretary's first full day in office, bringing the total this year to more than 30,000 arrivals. Ms Mahmood has vowed to do whatever it takes to stop small boat crossings. Well, the new Home Secretary has also confirmed that she will not be running for Deputy Leader of the Labour Party. Labour MPs have until Thursday to secure the support of colleagues in Westminster if they wish to replace Angela Rayner. Candidates must get nominations from 80 MPs, a fifth of the total on the Labour benches, by 5 o'clock on Thursday. The result of the process will be announced on the 25th of October. Sir Jim Ratcliffe's company Ineos has abandoned its UK investment plans over what they call Britain's unstable fiscal regime. The chief executive of Ineos's energy division has said that the company will now divert plans to invest £3 billion to the United States instead. The company was forced to shut the Grangemouth oil refinery earlier this year. And Prince Harry has been at the WellChild Awards in central London after visiting Windsor Castle earlier, where he laid a wreath and privately paid respects to the late Queen. He's in the UK for the first time in 5 months, and the Duke of Sussex has been a patron of WellChild, a charity which supports seriously ill children and their families, for 17 years. Sticking with royal news, the Princess of Wales has joined her husband at an engagement to mark the 3rd anniversary of Queen Elizabeth II's death. Kensington Palace sources say the Princess of Wales was keen to join her husband to commemorate and celebrate the life of the late Queen. You're up to date on GB News. Now let's go back to Westminster with Jacob.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Welcome back to State of the Nation. The metropolis has ground to a halt today as Transport for London shirkers begin a 5-day walkout. Members of the Rail, Maritime and Transport Union are striking over pay and conditions. The union has raised concerns over fatigue management, citing the health impact of early and late shifts on its members, and are demanding a 32-hour working week. Tens of thousands of commuters and families have been disrupted by this walkout and will continue to be affected in the coming days. Number 10 has said that people are rightly fed up with the strikes and have called for more talks to end the walkout. But it won't tell the mayor to use his powers to stop it. In 2023, a law introduced by Liz Truss's government called the Strikes Act was passed, which allows the government to set minimum service levels during strikes in key public services such as health, transport and education, permitting employers to issue a work notice mandating minimum staffing levels during strikes, with unions potentially liable if they do not ensure compliance. Although Labour has stated its intention to repeal this act, it is currently the law of the land and could be used to stop these strikes. By failing to use the powers available to him, Sadiq Khan is conniving in bringing London to a standstill. The Mayor of London has allowed himself to be at the beck and call of Labour's trade union paymasters, unwilling to defy them in favour of standing up for the people who elected him. This strike did not need to happen, not least as tube drivers are supernumerary. Most of these trains operate automatically with a cab observer, though the observer serves little useful purpose. Bogus safety standards set by unions keep them in post, but this has been shown to be ineffective. On Boxing Day 2023, we learned the tragic story of a 72-year-old pensioner called Brian Mitchell, who stumbled onto the tracks at Stratford Station and was fatally struck by a terminating train 5 minutes later. After Mr. Mitchell's death, 3 more trains drove over the track where he was lying, in spite of having observers in them, before being noticed by a 4th. So why are they there? It's sheer union obduracy. It's like when ASLEF used to keep firemen on board diesel trains. It's the same type of Spanish practice, and it's time to move towards driverless trains on the Transport for London network, not least as they are not drivers but observers who don't observe. The Docklands Light Railway, which has no drivers, will remain operative for all but 2 of the 5-day strike period. The capital cannot, must not, should not be held to ransom by greedy and idle union bosses any longer, particularly when such action is prevented if we adopt technology and we can advance in a way that other cities across the world have done. The Mayor of London has failed to prevent this mass walkout on 2 levels. He failed to use powers at his disposal to prevent disruptive action, and by failing to adopt technology that would spare working people from being at the mercy of those demanding better standards than those who pay for them. This is Sadiq Khan's personal strike, and the people should hold him accountable for it. As ever, let me know what you think. mailmog@gbnews.com. I'm now very pleased to be joined by the former editor of Labour List, Peter Edwards, and my intellectual panel, John Redwood and Stephen Pound. Peter, let me come to you first. Labour may not like the act that was passed in 2023, but they've got the power to say 40% of tube journeys must happen, and they are refusing to use it. It's therefore their strike.
Absolute nonsense. And Jacob, for a very well-read man, I thought your monologue was absolute garbage. The law we're talking about, minimum service level, was introduced by the last Conservative government, is badly drafted. It's vindictive. It was not in their manifesto. And it's very interesting to learn that... bear with me.
But none of that stops it being the law of the land.
Bear with me. The rail bosses, not just Tube, but across London, train operators are not using the Act. They're choosing not to enforce the Act because it's so badly drafted. And in terms of the separate point about the role of unions, now, union membership was quite high under Mrs Thatcher, so we have to banish this idea that unions are taking over the country. They're not at all. But as a Democrat, you believe, surely, that if unions have a ballot and union bosses are only there to act in the best interest of their members, it's entirely reasonable that lawful union members go on strike.
I think the Transport for London should use the powers that it's got and could mandate 40% of tube journeys. If you go out here, London is gridlocked by this selfish action. It's an essential service.
Jacob, I must ask you, though, have you been on public transport today?
No, not today.
OK, so that's fatally undermines your argument. I've been on 5 trains and a bus.
Yep.
London, and it's important for viewers outside London to know, London's not ground to a halt.
It is ground to a halt.
No, Jacob.
The reason I haven't been on public transport, I've had to walk.
Jacob,
I walked miles
I've been on 5 trains and a bus.
Because the
it was fine.
is absolutely stuck. If you go out of here, you go to Trafalgar Square, you go into Soho, you go to Victoria Street, it is all absolutely solid and has been all day. And this is unions who are making our life a misery, and the power exists to stop it. And Sadiq Khan could use this power. And your arguments against the Act is you don't like the way the Act operates.
Jake, forgive me, this is another monologue. Let's allow time to answer. Soho is gridlocked every day of the year except Christmas Day. Soho, at the best of times, is not necessarily a fun place to walk around. I've been on 5 trains and a bus today across several London boroughs and into Essex. The most severe problem I found was a 1 to 2 minute wait to get onto the Elizabeth line. 1 to 2 minutes.
Well, the Elizabeth line has been running.
Exactly.
So had you wanted to go on an ordinary tube, you wouldn't have been able to.
I went on many other trains and buses quite happily. London has not been gridlocked. And let's come to the point about drivers. The DLR, I know very well, spent many happy hours on there, but it still requires staff, it still requires wages.
These observers
some
who
of them
don't observe? You could have driverless trains. They didn't observe a body on the tracks. They're completely pointless. They sit there reading the newspaper.
Well, that was a dreadful story, and it worried me. Again, I know Stratford Station very well. It's a very sad thing, and it must be absolutely dreadful for family. But that is a competence issue, and I think I'm a bit worried that parts of the right want to turn this into an
issue.
Clearly, there's a competence issue about the Observer, but we're talking about ideology here. I believe the Conservative government, the last one, introduced the anti-union law purely out of ideological vindictiveness.
I think they did it to maintain basic public services for people. But I'd say on the Observer issue that we're told by the unions they are there for safety, and they can't even see a body on the tracks. They are not any use. You'd be better off having automatic machine discovery of whether there are obstructions on the track.
We agree that is a horrifying story because human dignity should override politics and ideology. But it's the job of TfL management to deal with poor performance. Let's not make that very, very sad set of scenarios an ideological debate.
But TfL management aren't good enough to use the laws that they've got to make the service run on a strike day. And they're not being told to by the mayor, who should order them to use the Act to get the minimum service.
Yeah, I'm very puzzled why you keep returning to this fact, because in recent memory we've had a Labour and Tory government and a Labour and Tory Mayor of London.
So the Act didn't exist when we had a Tory Mayor of London.
But we had...
It's a new law. It came in 2023.
No, I understand that. But if we had a Tory Mayor who left TfL in a state you're not happy with, and a Tory government that left TfL in a state you're not happy with, I'm not really sure what the crux of your argument is.
I don't think that's true. I think that TfL was solvent when Boris Johnson left. Become insolvent under Sadiq Khan. But let me bring in one of Sadiq Khan's great admirers.
Yes. Well, look, let's get a couple of things straight. Let's talk about some sensible things here. Sadiq Khan found £30 million at the last time that we had an RMT and ASLEF strike. He's not going to find that again. And what's interesting about the Elizabeth line is the Elizabeth line is a brand new line. You know, people outside London may not know about it. You know, it runs basically from Heathrow Airport right the way across to the far east of London. And the driving terms and conditions were negotiated by a Labour mayor, and they've not gone on strike because they spoke to the unions. Here's the problem with the anti-strike law. I've driven a bus, I've never driven a tube, and if you're a tube train driver, you have a thing called the DIS book, the DIS book, which is Dangerous in Service book. That book is as thick as a Knox Bible. You can actually find any reason. So if you actually said, thou shalt drive the tube train, oh no, I'm going on sick, or there's a light bulb missing on the third carriage, there's no way you can march somebody down to Stratford tube station, sit them behind the dead man's handle and tell them to drive that. You have to work with people. You cannot force people to actually work when they want to strike. The police and the armed forces, I think, are the only people where this law applies.
So you can force people because the police and the armed forces don't. John, let me bring you in.
Slightly, they have an oath to the Queen.
Well, I don't think there's any public sympathy for this strike at all. These people are on a basic of £72,000 a year. Many of them earn considerably more than that because they take overtime. Presumably the idea of trying to go down from a basic 35 to 32 is to earn even more because they get a lot more overtime. I don't suppose they'll all be sleeping in order to make sure they're not tired when they come onto duty. And they have no thought for the public whatsoever. So I think they're very ill-advised. These are well-paid people. And as you rightly say, there is technology available now to get rid of them altogether. It's a privilege for them that they're not being taken off the trains altogether. And they ought to realise that they're in a very vulnerable position because it's not going to be that long before a manager just says, I can't put up with this, I'm going to make these things completely automatic.
And it becomes like the print unions in 1985 at Wapping, when the whole thing gets removed and you just automate.
Because you've got to, because it's just too expensive.
Because it's got absurd.
And you're losing all this revenue. You know, I know they don't collect all the fares, but we've been trying to point that out. but at least on days when the tubes are running, they are collecting quite a lot of fare revenue, and today there was no contribution for all the overheads.
Stephen, I mean, it is going to be like 1985. Eventually, there will be a government, there will be a leadership at TfL that isn't, say, spineless, and says we don't actually need you.
Yeah, but in all honesty, don't forget, we've tried this one. You know, when the railways were denationalised or, you know, basically sold off to anybody who had deep pockets, each one of those railway companies, those Roscoes, the rolling stock companies, had their right to actually negotiate their own terms and conditions of service. They could have enforced that law if they wanted to. They didn't, because it's unworkable. That's the real problem. I have to say, you've got to talk to people. You can't shout at people. Megaphone diplomacy simply doesn't work. Now, I appreciate, you know, Mick Lynch and before him, Bob Crow and some of the people in the RMT. There's a certain element of Millwall supporters about them. But the reality is you've got to talk to people.
But this law has only just come into being.
No,
it wasn't available.
It came in 3 years ago.
Let me give you a final word, because Labour governments always get into trouble with the unions, and this is part of that. A weak Labour government is finding that the unions are pushing things to the maximum. It's actually very bad for the Labour Party and for its support.
We should have been barrister with questions like that. So leading are they? I think the Conservative government said some very rude things about unions. There were quite a lot of strikes in the last 1 to 2 years of Conservative government. But in factual terms, I looked it up. The number of strike days Britain loses annually is well below that of the Thatcher and major government. So unions do not have a stranglehold in the country. Final thought, by the way, I'm all in favour. I don't want to see strikes because I'm a passenger, but I do believe in fairness. Final thought, who here has been a shift worker? Because if you work till 12 a.m, me too, if you work till 12 a.m, if you work till 1 a.m, it does have an effect on your health, your relationships, your sleep. You're completely entitled to push for a robust deal and argue your case.
But hang on a second, my wife's been a nurse most of her working life, and she worked 6 o'clock in the morning till 2 in the afternoon, or 2 till 10. You know, there was never ever a case that nurses finished at 10 o'clock at night and then couldn't come on the next morning. I'm sorry, I think that argument is not the strong. You've got some good arguments. That's not your best one.
But hold on, our viewers are waiting for this. It's really exciting. Edge of your seat stuff. A spokesman for the Mayor of London told GB News nobody wants to see strike action or disruption for Londoners. Strikes have a serious impact on London's businesses and commuters. The Mayor continues to urge the RMT and TfL to get around the table to resolve this matter and get the network reopened. Perhaps they could have some beer and sandwiches whilst they're at it. Thank you very much to Peter and my panel. Next, His Royal Highness the Duke of Sussex has just delivered a speech in central London. He managed to get there without going on public transport, in which he spoke about the challenges that life have brought him. We'll bring that to you next. I bet you can't wait.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Don't come at me with a knife.
I'll get sued. Okay, right, let's go.
Okay.
Is it going to be a boy or a girl? Hang on, I need to do it facing. Oh, there we go. There we go.
Oh. Oh. It is. Oh. Hey. Oh. Not another young Patrick. Emily and Patrick.
It's going to be another Patrick.
I just wanted to give you a little token of something.
Pink, now that you got the gender wrong.
Look, who was to know? Who was to know? You kept the secret well. It's just to rip through the paper. It's just a very little thing for the little baby. It's
gosh, a lot of wrapping paper.
Yeah, it's to make it look bigger than it actually is. It's somewhere. Come on. No, it's there somewhere. There you go. Oh, brilliant.
It's
a little.
What is this?
GB baby. I get a little smell. The archetypal GB baby. I'm sure.
You do treat me, Tom.
I'm sure your son will have a show at about 6 months old. It's just absolutely inevitable.
Well, there you go. We can make the GBB sweet. That's very sweet of you. Thank you, Tom. I'm going to miss you. I'm going to miss all you guys, actually.
Yeah, I really hope you don't stay away for too long, and I hope you're going to be coming back in whatever shape or form sort of throughout the process.
You have me back.
I hope we're going to zoom in and see you sort of, you know, from your maternity bed.
Well, there was a conversation about doing some kind of 24, what is it, one born every minute?
24 hours a minute.
Yeah, well, I think we vetoed that, but we could get Cameron Walker outside the limit.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Well, welcome back. I'm still Jacob Rees-Mogg, and it's time for the Mail Mogs, which have come steaming in. They've got through the picket line. Mark says, Jacob, the TfL staff will, of course, get a pay increase, and in the public sector in general cannot go wrong with a weak Labour Prime Minister in office. I worked for British Rail in the 80s, and there was far more pride in the job, and holding government to ransom was not in the job description. With Margaret Thatcher as PM, wouldn't have succeeded anyway. Keep them coming. But now we're going over to Katie Byrne for some really exciting news from His Royal Highness Duke of Sussex, I think.
Jacob, thank you. Let's go to central London now, where Prince Harry has been speaking at the WellChild Awards. He's just delivered a speech in which he said the world has thrown a fair few challenges our way. Let's listen to it now.
There he is. Good evening, everybody. It's wonderful to be here with you all for the 20th Annual WellChild Awards, generously supported by our friends at GSK, who have been remarkably quiet this evening. There we go, 3 tables, much quieter. You've now committed for the next 20 years. Congratulations and thank you. 20 years, that's quite something. Though looking around this room tonight, I think most of you are proof that WellChild just keeps getting stronger with age. For 2 decades, this event has shone a bright spotlight on the needs of children and young people living with complex medical conditions. But more than that, it has celebrated something far bigger: your courage, your resilience, and the extraordinary love of the families and carers who never stop showing up for you. I still remember my very first WellChild Awards 18 years ago. Before a beard, I had hair. You know what it's like. And I walked into the room, and within about 3 minutes, I realized two things. The love and energy in the room was palpable, and so too was the unpredictability. And second, that I was completely hooked on it all. This night has been the highlight of my year ever since, and it's all because of you guys. These children, this cause, and our WellChild community. Thank you for showing us the light when all too often darkness can consume us. As so much has happened since those early days, for me, for you, and for WellChild. The world has thrown a fair few challenges our way. But through it all, WellChild has remained rock solid in its mission: to give children and young people with complex medical needs the chance to thrive. Not in hospital, but at home, surrounded by family, friends, and community. And the growth of this charity tells its own story. Since those early days, 311 WellChild Award winners have inspired us with their bravery. And today, a 53-strong team of WellChild nurses are out there making an enormous difference. Add to that a community of more than 3,600 families, plus support programs reaching even further, and you see the real impact of what has been built here. More than ever, WellChild's mission must be our shared priority. Tonight, I'd ask each and every one of you to think about how you can play your part, whether through support, awareness, or action, like running a marathon. You're fully committed to that now. To help advance this crucial work. As patron, I couldn't be prouder to see how far this charity WellChild has come. I want to pay tribute to everyone who's made that journey possible. Gabby, I know you keep hiding in the corner, but you are instrumental to this. And of course, GSK, who are in this for the next 20 years, whose unwavering support has been there not just for this night, but for the charity's work as a whole. Thank you for standing with us shoulder to shoulder. And finally, to our winners tonight, this is your moment. While we reflect on 20 years of these awards, the truth is that you are the story. You are the reason that we gather here. Each of you is a beacon of hope and inspiration, not just to those in this room, but to the nation. Keep fighting, keep smiling, and above all, keep showing us what strength, courage, and joy really look like. Thank you, and have a wonderful evening.
Well, that was the Duke of Sussex speaking a short while ago. Let's go to GB News' royal correspondent Cameron Walker for some reaction to that speech. Cameron, what did you make of it?
Yeah, well, he said in his speech that WellChild Awards is the highlight of his year, and you could tell, I think, that he was in his element. It really is a passion of his. He's been patron of the charity, which celebrates the achievements of seriously ill children and their families in the UK for 17 years, and he was ad-libbing throughout the speech. He was clearly having a good time. I was on the purple carpet earlier on this afternoon where the Prince arrives at the awards, and he was very comfortable in front of the cameras. Actually, that was a rarity, I think, when it comes to Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex. It's almost like having the old Harry back from when he was a working member of the royal family. But one line stood out to me in that speech, and it was, "The world has thrown a fair few challenges our way," talking since the early days of WellChild 20 years ago. Since then, of course, he stood back as a working member of the royal family, and the last 3 years have been a bit turbulent for Prince Harry, to say the least. The opinion polls have really gone downhill quite significantly. Of course, he's done his Netflix series, he's done Spare, and he's kind of got estranged from his brother and his father, the King. It's unclear if he's going to see his the King later on this week. His father, Prince Harry, in the United Kingdom for 4 days. And WellChild tonight is the first of a string of public engagements, charity engagements. Tomorrow he's in Nottingham celebrating some grassroots organisations, which actually is where he took Meghan Markle for their first public engagement together way back in 2017. So is this a full circle moment? Well, we'll wait and see. But of course, the British public, a lot of them have a lot of resentment still perhaps for Prince Harry because of Spare, because of a Netflix series and all the rest of it. So this could well be the start of a turning of a new leaf for Prince Harry, focusing on charity work and getting away from all the drama. And in that speech tonight, perhaps we saw a little hint of that. It was very much focused on the charity and highlighting the charity.
Well, Cameron Walker, GB News' royal correspondent, thank you very much indeed. Let's go back now to Jacob in Westminster.
Well, welcome back. My most intellectual panel were very, very excited by that. Stephen, what did you think of His Royal Highness's speech?
I was rather depressed by it. It sounded like a sort of a fundraising speech at a Rotary dinner. I mean, I'm with Badgett, sort of the great constitutional expert who talked about sort of the mystery, or the mystique of the royal family. I'd like to see a bit more dignity and a little less of that rah-rah and that sort of back and forth. I'm sorry, there was a complete absence of dignity, and if I may say so, an absence of any sort of royal presence there. I was embarrassed by it.
Really? And John, were you on the edge of your seat?
Well, there's no news content in it, and we all know what the news content could be. I mean, is he here with the approval of his father, the King, or is he not? And if he is here with the approval, why aren't we told that they're going to meet? And if he's not here with his approval, what exactly is he doing? Because I thought he said he wasn't going to carry on with royal duties in the United Kingdom.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, I don't much care. What I do care about is that today is the anniversary of the death of the late Queen, who I think we all adored, and who was just such a model of what a constitutional monarch should be, and how we all miss her dignity, her distinction, her leadership, her focus of the emotion of the country.
Ask yourself, and all your thousands, if not millions of viewers should ask themselves the same question. Could you ever imagine Her Majesty, the late Queen Elizabeth, performing like that? Because that was a performance. There was no dignity, there was no style, there was, if I may say, no class about it.
Well, she wouldn't have done that at all. No, she was always thoroughly prepped and prepared. She knew exactly all the circumstances and made sure that her words did not offend anybody. If you ad-lib too much, you could suddenly say something far too exciting, and then there would be an explosive news content which they didn't want.
Well, after the excitement of His Royal Highness's speech, we're now getting to some messages from our sponsors. But after that, we're getting the political turmoil that has affected France since that sad day in 1789, because it's been hitting again this evening as the Parliament has voted to topple the government over rising debt. Prime Minister Bayrou must resign, leaving President Macron searching for a fifth Prime Minister in under 2 years, with the opposition rejecting budget cuts. Does the French government's collapse mean anything for us? What should we learn from it? That's coming up in a moment.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Hello there. An unsettled couple of days to come across parts of Spain and Italy with some heavy showers around. But for the Canaries, actually, next couple of days, largely fine, apart from the odd shower around. Plenty of sunshine, actually, for parts of Portugal and western Spain. But for eastern Spain, the Balearics, parts of Italy, southern France, some heavy and thundery downpours around. But for much of Greece and Turkey, fine a couple of days to come, with temperatures here reaching the high 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Heading into tomorrow, and we'll see more sunshine across eastern areas. Can't rule out some showers across the west though. Fairly similar temperatures, so still remaining pleasant in any sunshine. But low pressure is still mostly dominating, particularly across western areas. A westerly flow still at times dragging in some showers and some longer spells of rain. And we could still see 1 or 2 showers, particularly across western parts of the UK. But once again, central areas, parts of the east will remain mostly dry. Plenty of clear skies, which means it is going to be turning cooler overnight. We could even see some mist and fog in prone areas by the morning. Some showers just starting to push into the southwest, otherwise mostly dry, and lows reaching around 7 to 8 degrees Celsius in Scotland. Heading into Tuesday, and it should be a fairly similar start as to what we saw this morning. Once again, plenty of clear skies, particularly across the northeast of Scotland, some mist and fog in places. Much cloudier start across Northern Ireland and northwestern parts of England, and a risk of showers here. Similar too across parts of Wales and southwest England, but for the bulk of the country, it should be a mostly dry and bright start to the day. And once again, across eastern areas, the sunshine will continue and it should remain mostly dry. But we'll see more clouds start to build in from the west. Still once again some showers. Southern parts of Wales, Devon and Cornwall could see plenty of showers by the time we reach the afternoon. Some could be heavy with some hail and thunder. And with that more cloud in the west, we could see more hazy spells of sunshine. But otherwise a mostly dry, settled day, fairly similar temperatures, highs reaching around 22 degrees Celsius in the southeast. Wednesday, though, perhaps a dry start in eastern areas, soon being replaced by further cloud and showers before we see persistent bands of rain push in from the west, turning quite blustery at times too, alongside some heavy bursts of rain. So quite an unsettled day on Wednesday, and the showers are still continuing for Thursday and Friday, but hopefully plenty of bright and sunny spells in between, where it should remain fairly pleasant.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Nothing has been stable in France since it got rid of King Louis XVI. It is in political turmoil again after its parliament voted to topple the government over plans to rein in the country's growing national debt. Prime Minister Bayrou, who took office 9 months ago, must now resign, leaving President Macron searching for a fifth Prime Minister in under 2 years. This comes because of opposition to 44 billion euros in proposed budget cuts. France's deficit is nearly double the EU ceiling. So is President Macron toast, as he now has French toast, a baguette, as he has to choose between a centrist conservative or leftist prime minister, or will he go for another election? Well, I'm joined now by my most intellectual panel, Sir John Redwood and Stephen Pound. John, what I really want to know about this is not gloating over France, umpteen republics and monarchies and everything, and empires since 1789. What do we learn from it? Are we in a similar situation with our deficit and debt, or are we protected?
No, we are in a very similar situation. Whilst our state debt is a slightly smaller percentage and our deficit is a slightly smaller percentage than France, the markets don't see it that way. I mean, as you know, the markets are charging us more for our new and additional debt than they are the French. And so they're saying you're both in the same boat, you're both overspending, you're both over-borrowing, and if you don't rein in, there is going to be a financial disaster, that the debt will just get too expensive and then you'll be forced to rein in. So we're both in the same position. We both have a big political problem. France doesn't have a majority for anything, and so I think they will need new elections to try and resolve that and ask the people. Britain has a big majority, but the governing party is completely incapable of putting through even modest adjustments to its budget. I think it chose the wrong ones, but they could have chosen other ones. Why didn't they immediately come back with some replacements of the kind that people would find acceptable? Instead, they backed off, so they look as if they've got as little political grip with a majority that Macron has without a majority.
And that is a problem for Labour, isn't it? That we are at the risk of being in a doom loop of debt interest being higher than the GDP growth we can get, and then it's very hard to get out of it.
But you'd have to have a heart of stone not to take some pleasure in the distress that they're experiencing over the Channel. But it does impact on us in this country. It impacts because they're a major trading partner of us. You know, they buy a lot of our goods, and, you know, and long may that continue. However, for me, the real lesson here is it's not just that there are certain similarities, by the way. They have a thing called La France Insoumise, led by Mélenchon, who is like a hard left. It's basically Jeremy Corbyn in a beret with some onions around his neck, you know, and so you've got this hard left grouping there. But when we tried to do a fairly modest reduction in our welfare bill, which is unsustainable, and I say that as a man of the left, our welfare bill utterly unsustainable. As you know, we didn't have the strength within the Parliamentary Labour Party to carry that through. Here we can see what happens if you don't get a grip on spending, and that is the real lesson for us.
But Starmer is significantly weaker now than he was when he couldn't get the welfare cuts.
Well, he's got his own people in the cabinet now, Jacob.
Yeah, but what a price. I mean, the reshuffle was a complete disaster. And why on earth do you put people into the most difficult jobs where the previous person has failed when they'd failed in the job you just kicked them out of? And why take somebody from the Home Office who's failed to control migration, which would help reduce costs if you could control migration, and put her in as agriculture minister, where we're not going to get so much food produced or so much tax out of the agricultural sector because of the complete lack of confidence and the wrong taxes that were imposed.
But we've also taken Shabana Mahmood, a very, very senior law officer, and put her in charge of the immigration and also the possibility of recasting or recalibrating the ECHR. So I think that's a good move. That's a good move. I have to say, agriculture...
Well, but then why wasn't it already prepared? Because she's been a law officer, she's been privy to all these arguments. Why didn't she and Starmer on day one say, this is what we're going to do? She should have sent a message immediately taking over the job to all those people in Calais to say, don't come to Britain today because I'm going to stop you. And instead, she presides over one of the biggest days ever, and presumably all she does is help her officials try and find some more hotels.
A tiny bit unfair. You say on the first day of Shabana Mahmood, she had two things on her desk. One was prison overcrowding, which was about to... It was conflagration. And the second thing was public order, the policing. Those were the two things she had. That was her brief.
Yes, but she'd have been a member of the committees that have been dealing with the illegal migration. And she'd had the privilege of a conversation with the Prime Minister who was meant to be running this. He should have said to her, look, these are the headlines you've got to get out. You need to get a message quickly to all those people in France. Don't come. We're going to stop you.
But she wasn't...
Why not, for example, reintroduce the Conservative law, which they rather belatedly put in, which said you cannot claim asylum if you get off an illegal boat. That would be a great help.
Yeah, but you know and I know that had never happened. I mean, look, all the
well,
Jewish...
Why wouldn't it happen?
When you think of all the people, the kinder transport, the Jewish people who came here after the war, who added immensely to this country, you're not going to say to somebody...
Yeah, but there are safe routes for asylum. They don't have to come by an illegal boat.
John, a woman in Kabul has no safe route to this country. A woman in Kabul, maybe whose husband or partner...
But Stephen, somebody in France doesn't need a safe route, because even with its current economic problems, France is a safe country. Once they're in France, they should not be coming here. They're safe.
Well, I mean, I think, the answer is push and the pull factor, but I mean, the fact that the Brits had a long history of involvement in Afghanistan is one of the factors. But
yeah, but we don't have to offer a four-star hotel and the French manage a marquee if you're lucky, or a tent.
Well, I'm not entirely sure they do. As you know, what's happening now is we're actually talking about military bases. So why, apart from Marston down in Kent, why weren't we talking about this 18 months
ago?
We were talking about it. Labour was against it.
Just a final thought on Starmer and Macron, because Macron is the president. He's there until the end of his term. Starmer has a majority of 170 and can carry on as Prime Minister. But neither of them can actually do anything. No. They are in office, but neither is in power. And for both their countries, that leads to drift and potentially economic crisis.
Well, I think the difficulty with France, if you look at the Assemblée Nationale, just look at the composition of it. I mean, when Michel Barnier was appointed, because I don't think he was elected, he was appointed as Prime Minister, he's actually faced with 14 different groupings. Now, all of them significant. We have different groups within the British Parliament, nothing like the same thing. And which is why I think one of the problems that they have with their electoral system is that you have a situation like Germany and Israel and so many other countries where you have to make coalitions. The French do not love coalition.
But why can't these leaders, either Macron or Starmer, choose some cuts that everybody would agree with? I mean, we're still selling all these bonds at a colossal loss for no good reason.
Trident? Yeah, that'd save 80 billion.
I was too historically modern. France didn't go wrong in 1789. It went wrong when Henry VI stopped being King of France. Anyway, thank you to my panel. In a moment...
Is Calais still written on your heart?
Of course. In a whole new meaning to Labour's magic money tree, a magician reveals he was fined £429 for using a rabbit as part of his act. Why do we keep conjuring these crazy rules out of our hats?
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Miriam, you can't be serious. Scrapping the triple lock on state pensions? Madness.
Andrew, we just can't carry on pretending. The numbers just don't add up. We've got to be honest with people. We've got to face the facts. That's what people want.
Well, that's what you get on GB News and on Britain's Newsroom. Lively debates, lively conversation.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first, and we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
In a whole new meaning to Labour's magic money tree, one magician says he's been hit with a hefty bill for using a rabbit in his act. Stuart Brown, better known as Magic Stuart, has been performing with his fluffy white rabbit Snowy for more than 15 years. But Labour-run Derby City Council has now demanded £429 for a licence, with another £328 every 3 years, under rules for keeping and training animals for exhibition. Brown says Snowy just sits on a table for children to take photos, yet he claims the fees could force him to cut back on charity shows. Why do we keep conjuring these crazy rules out of our hats? Well, I'm joined now by Magic Stuart himself. Thank you very much for joining me. So you've been performing for 15 years with your rabbit, and suddenly you get a bill from the council. This must have come as a bit of a surprise.
Well, hello, Jacob. Thank you for having me on. Yes, it's a big surprise because although this rabbit isn't 15 years old, this is the second one that I've had. The first one lived till in nearly 10 years old, and this one's just under 4 years old. So yeah, it just comes as a complete shock because first and foremost, Snowy is a tame and is a pet. Is not trained to do anything, and the council say to me, if you take him to a show, you've got to pay a licence fee, or a licence of £429 just for taking him to a show where he's going to be there just for 10 minutes at the end of a party for the children, the birthday boy, the birthday girl, and the other children, all their friends, to have a photo taken with him.
Which used to be the highlight of a magic show. I think I've still got a picture somewhere of me when I was about 3 at a birthday party with a magician called Uncle Cecil who came, and he would take a rabbit out of the hat, and this was brilliant. You don't take your rabbit out of the hat, you just have the rabbit there.
No, it doesn't get produced out of a hat or anything like that. There's nothing like that at all. It's literally just put on the table at the end of the show. So I do a magic show for children at the party. Then at the end of the party, I say to them, it's always nice to see a live animal at a magic show. What animal would it be? Would it be a tiger? No, they say. Would it be an elephant? No, it's a live little bunny. And I just take him out of his carrying box and put him on there.
And you're going to do a magic trick for us, I think, to show us a trick, but without the bunny.
Yeah, without the bunny, because it's not using any magic. Yeah, I mean, at the parties, I always like to do visual stuff. That's why the rabbit's there, because a lot of children don't ever get to see a live animal in real life, or they haven't got any pets. So yeah, I take a little picture of this, a little dragon. And I explained that it's a picture that I was going to colour in years ago, but I failed to do so. It's all black and white. We want him nice and colourful. So I get the children to grab colours from their clothes and throw towards the dragon, such as we'll take a blue from there, put it on the dragon. Not worked yet. We'll take a green as well, put that on the dragon. All different colours onto it, but still not worked. So, as all magicians use, they need a magic wand. They wave it over the top, get a little tap, and it's still black and white. So we need the magic words. And the magic words, are abracadabra. So if we wave it over the top, get a little tap, and we find that the dragon slowly and surely becomes...
Oh, that's brilliant.
Oh.
Well, I think you've got to take your magic wand and magic away the idiotic bill from Derby City Council. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Derby City Council, I think, has had something to say to us. Yes, a spokesman has said, a licence has been required for the keeping or training of animals for exhibition since October the 1st, 2018. This is a legal requirement set out by the government, and the fees associated with this are in line with other local authorities across the country. They don't point out that the council has the right to set the level of the fees. That's a council choice, not set by the government, and they could actually give the licence for free. Very interestingly, not all Britons who tick no religion on the census are devout non-believers. A major Pew study has found that while almost half the population now says it is religiously unaffiliated, under half reject spirituality outright. A third still believe in an afterlife, a quarter in God, and almost half say there's something beyond the natural world. Even 8% of self-declared atheists admit to believing in something bigger than themselves. So perhaps Pope Leo XIV was right when he questioned whether atheism really exists at all. I'm joined now by journalist and author of Living in Wonder, Rod Dreher. Rod, thank you for joining me. This is really fascinating. So there are a lot of people who believe in God and who also believe in the afterlife who say they're not religious. Are they just a little confused? Are they basically Liberal Democrats?
No, the fact is we do live in a world that has been called disenchanted. But the truth is most people do believe in some form of transcendence. Chesterton famously said that when people stop believing in God, that doesn't mean they believe in nothing. It means they'll believe in anything. And in fact, survey after survey shows that most people still do believe that there is something mystical, something beyond ourselves that is part of reality.
So is it a failure of the churches to persuade them that their belief in God, their belief in the afterlife can be channeled into one of the main religions? Is it a failure of getting the message across?
I think it is mostly that. The churches today, we have so many resources in our traditions to reach out to people and to show them that there is life after death and to help them participate in a real way in the life of God. But in modern times, most churches are ashamed of that. They prefer not to talk about these mystical things, angels, saints, demons, miracles, that sort of thing. They would rather focus on moralism, on social justice or political activism, these sort of things. Now, it is important to be moral. It is important to fight for social justice. But what the churches have done is to take away the real power of religion, the mystical element, and we must recover that if we're going to recover Christianity at all. Because I'll tell you, Jacob, what the surveys are showing is the younger generation, those younger than you and I are turning to the occult and to psychedelic drugs, seeking that experience of transcendence.
And within religion, they're turning in the Catholic Church to the old rite, to the Latin Mass, and in the Protestant religions, they're turning to the evangelicals. They want the real deal rather than the pap.
That's exactly right. I myself am Eastern Orthodox, which is a highly mystical, highly participatory form of Christianity. This past spring, I went to the pilgrimage that 20,000 young traditionalist Catholics make from Paris to Chartres. And
yes.
I tell you, it really, really helped me as a 58-year-old Christian who is often pessimistic about the state of our civilization, to talk to these young people and to hear that they are desperate.
I'm going to have to stop there, but it's the birthday of Our Lady, and let's hope England becomes her dowry once again. Finally, I had a wonderful taxi driver yesterday. The drivers who master the knowledge aren't just behind the wheel. They're living encyclopedias of the city, and they embody English grit and humour. The London taxi driver is as iconic as the red bus or the tube map or Big Ben, which you can see behind me. And I'd like to give thanks to Dave the cabbie, who drove me home with Alistair Jack, the former Scottish Secretary from Lords last week. Thank you, Dave. And remember, all my viewers, to back your proper black taxis. It was Disraeli who called them the gondolas of London, and they always have the most interesting views. I use them basically as a private focus group to keep me informed as to what the British people are thinking, so that I know what to say on GB News. Anyway, that's all from me. Up next, it's the great Alex Armstrong, who's in for Patrick Christie's, because congratulations to Patrick. He is the father of a brand new baby boy, George Alexander Peter Christie's. So, what have you got in place of Patrick today? I hope it'll be the Somerset cricket score.
Right, so, Jacob, it's going to be a fantastic show. Listen, I want everyone to tune in. Might you be a second-class citizen in your own country? Trust me, you're not going to want to miss what I've got for you from Patrick Christie's tonight. See you after the weather.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Heading into tomorrow, and we'll see more sunshine across eastern areas. Can't rule out some showers across the west though. Fairly similar temperatures, so still remaining pleasant in any sunshine. But low pressure is still mostly dominating, particularly across western areas. A westerly flow still at times dragging in some showers and some longer spells of rain. And we could still see 1 or 2 showers, particularly across western parts of the UK. But once again, central areas, parts of the east will remain mostly dry. Plenty of clear skies, which means it is going to be turning cooler overnight. We could even see some mist and fog in prone areas by the morning. Some showers just starting to push into the southwest, otherwise mostly dry, and lows reaching around 7 to 8 degrees Celsius in Scotland. Heading into Tuesday, and it should be a fairly similar start as to what we saw this morning. Once again, plenty of clear skies, particularly across the northeast of Scotland, some mist and fog in places. Much cloudier start across Northern Ireland and northwestern parts of England, and a risk of showers here. Similar too across parts of Wales and southwest England, but for the bulk of the country, it should be a mostly dry and bright start to the day. And once again, across eastern areas, the sunshine will continue and it should remain mostly dry. But we'll see more clouds start to build in from the west. Still once again some showers. Southern parts of Wales, Devon and Cornwall could see plenty of showers by the time we reach the afternoon. Some could be heavy with some hail and thunder. And with that more cloud in the west, we could see more hazy spells of sunshine. But otherwise a mostly dry, settled day, fairly similar temperatures, highs reaching around 22 degrees Celsius in the southeast. Wednesday, though, perhaps a dry start in eastern areas, soon being replaced by further cloud and showers before we see persistent bands of rain push in from the west, turning quite blustery at times too